Let's talk about regrets, also sometimes known as guilt. Guilt and regret are things we deal with in everyday life when there is grief or loss intersecting with that. It's like when you can't possibly have a do-over, those regrets get really big. Let me give you an example. Let's say that you flew out to be with your mom while she was on hospice, but before you got there, she actually died as you were at the airport, and you feel immensely guilty. You regret that you didn't move your meeting and you didn't get there fast enough, right? Like I failed. One, this is really normal. Even if you did everything beautifully, even if you did make it on time, there's always gonna be a part of you that says, I didn't do enough. We are creatures of, I did not do enough. It doesn't matter if you gave up your entire life and you moved in with the person for the last 18 months. Like it doesn't matter logically, realistically, how much you did do. There is always something you failed to do. I want you to know that those regrets and those feelings of guilt, but really regret is just a more tormented form of guilt. I failed to do something. Doesn't matter if it was logical, doesn't matter if I did everything, I didn't do enough. So one, really, really normal, happens for a lot of people. What matters for us here today is, what are we gonna do about it? Let's look at what usually happens when you say, I didn't do enough, I regret not being there, I didn't make it in time, I didn't do this, I didn't do that. What do the people around you do? They say, you did the best you could. They knew you were there, they knew you loved them, you went over and beyond. Like, they give you this parade of your accomplishments. Doesn't work, does it? It does nothing to alleviate your regret. If anything, what it does is make you think that your friend or your therapist or your doctor doesn't understand how much you failed. They don't understand that you didn't do what you feel like you should have done, right? What happened, happened, and you can't undo that. You don't get a do-over with death. You don't get a do-over. It's never going to make you feel less guilty or have less regret if somebody points out all the ways that you're awesome. Wrong medicine. Instead, a much more effective and awesome approach is to say, it makes sense that you feel like that. You did so much for that person and it would never feel like enough. Hear what I did there? I reminded them, in a way that wasn't like hammering it, I reminded them you actually did a whole lot, and it doesn't matter because you still feel like you didn't do enough. So I gave you a little reality check, and I also said, and it makes perfect sense that this feels so heavy and you regret so much. That is magic, friends. What that does is it steps out of that dance that we always do where I say I feel like this and the other person says, but you shouldn't, and you say, but yes, I do. It gets us out of that headbutting into new territory. So if you come to me and you say, I didn't make it in time, and I say, you know, you were there for the 3 weeks before that, and I get it. Of course you regret not being there on time. And then I wait. Because I did those two things, because I framed it in such a way that you did a lot, but I also said, and that would never be enough, that makes perfect sense. I'm giving that person a chance to say, yeah, like, I know I couldn't have done it any faster, but I have to live with the fact that I feel like I failed, right? You're just giving that person a chance to say what they're feeling anyway, without having to defend themselves. And I don't want you to discount that. Giving somebody who is grieving whatever the loss is, or whatever they're feeling, why ever they're feeling regret or guilt or remorse, doesn't matter why they're feeling it. If you give them the space to feel what they feel, that is medicine. What happens next, like if you are the person who feels this remorse or this guilt or regret, it's not about making that regret go away. You can't. Sorry. I know that's a little bit of a bummer, isn't it? Like, you can't get that do-over. You can't magic wand that and say, like, I had the ending that I wanted to, or they had the ending that I wanted to. Like, that's not an option that's available for you. The way to approach that for yourself is to say, given that I don't have a do-over, what do I need when I'm feeling regret like this? I can't make this go away, but what do I need when I'm feeling like this? Does it help me to remind myself of the moments that my mom knew I was there? Does it help me to remind myself that I really did do the best I could? And when I'm feeling this kind of regret, what I really need to do is go for a walk in the woods or go volunteer somewhere. Do you know what I mean? Like the what you do about it is much less important than the conversation that you have with yourself. It's a different orientation. Instead of fighting with the feeling, instead of fighting with the regret, you're relating to it. You're curious about it. Given that I don't get a do-over and I feel this remorse, what do I need? What needs to happen next so that I can survive this? So I'm talking about regrets related to end of life and death and the ultimate don't get a do-over. But this is also, if we widen that lens a little bit, this is really about living your life in such a way that you have fewer regrets. Something that I hear from a lot of people when they're grieving is, I regret that I never asked my dad this. I wish I had done this differently. I regret not getting closer with my sister before she got sick. Like, those are sometimes the regrets that you're carrying around, right? It's not just I failed to be there for the person in the way that I wanted to, but sometimes our regrets are more relational. I missed my chance. I missed my chance to say this. I missed my chance to ask this. I missed my chance to have the kind of relationship that I've always longed for. You can't get that time back, but what you can do is you can take what you regret and make some decisions about how you live forward. If you regret that you didn't ask your dad certain questions about his childhood or about the ways he moved through the world or like his experience in this, like whatever, if you regret that, you can't fix that. You can't go back and ask your dad those questions, but you can prevent that regret from showing up in other relationships by asking your people the things you're curious about. Ask your mom the questions that you most want answered before she dies. You are preventing future regret by choosing an action based on the regret you can't change. If there are things that you regret in your life, use those to help you guide the decisions you make moving forward. Set your future self up for fewer regrets with the choices you make right now.